You see them on TV, those slicked-back Wall Street guys talking about diversified portfolios and maximizing returns. They make it sound so easy, like all you need is a few fancy terms and a bit of insider knowledge to strike it rich. You start thinking, hey, maybe I need one of those guys to handle my dough. After all, they seem to know what they're doing, right? They've got the jargon, the confidence, and the track record, or so they claim. You know, someone with a fancy suit and an even fancier office, who can make your money work harder than a New York City cab driver on a Saturday night. They promise to take your modest savings and turn it into a small fortune, all while you sit back and relax. But let me tell you folks, those high-priced financial advisors, they ain't all they're cracked up to be. Sure, they talk a good game, but when you dig a little deeper, you might find that their promises are as empty as a politician's. Sure, they might have a few fancy degrees and a Rolodex longer than the line at Katz's Deli, but do they actually get results? Do those degrees and connections translate into real tangible gains for you? That's the million-dollar question, or should I say the million-dollar fee question, because these advisors don't come cheap. They charge you a pretty penny for their so-called expertise. Because let's be real, these guys don't come cheap. You're talking about forking over a chunk of your hard-earned cash just to have them tell you what to do with the rest of it. And sometimes their advice is no better than what you could have figured out on your own. You're talking about forking over a chunk of your hard-earned cash just to have them tell you what to do with the rest of it. It's like paying someone to tell you how to spend your own money, and that just doesn't sit right with me. It's enough to make you want to grab a slice of pizza and cry in Central Park. You start to wonder if all this financial mumbo-jumbo is just a way to separate you from your money. So I decided to put these financial gurus to the test. I met with a bunch of them, listened to their pitches, and reviewed their plans. I wanted to see if their high-priced advice was worth its weight in gold, or if I was better off throwing darts at the Wall Street Journal. I wanted to see if their high-priced advice was worth its weight in gold, or if I was better off throwing darts at the Wall Street Journal. And you know what? Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. Maybe all you need is a bit of common sense and a willingness to learn. So, before you hand over your cash to a fancy pants advisor, think twice. You might just be better off trusting your own instincts. I'm talking about the creme de la creme, the top dog, the financial advisor to the stars. This isn't just any advisor, this is the guy who manages the wealth of A-list celebrities and high-profile business moguls. This guy's office was fancier than a penthouse suite in Midtown, with more marble than Michelangelo's workshop. The place screamed opulence, with gold accents and plush leather chairs that looked like they belonged in a royal palace. He had one of those smiles that could sell ice to an Eskimo, and a handshake that felt like it could crush diamonds. His confidence was palpable, and you could tell he was used to closing deals worth millions. But when he told me his fee, I almost choked on my own tongue. I mean, I knew it would be high, but this was on another level. It was more than my monthly rent. And not just by a little bit, by a lot. We're talking a figure that could cover several months of rent easily. I'm talking astronomical, out of this world, you've got to be kidding me expensive. It was the kind of fee that made you question your life choices and wonder if you were in the right profession. I swear, I heard angels singing and saw my life savings flash before my eyes. It was like a scene from a movie where everything goes into slow motion and you realize the gravity of the situation. But hey, I figured, maybe this was the price of admission to the big leagues. Maybe this was what it took to play in the same arena as the ultra-wealthy. Maybe this guy had some secret sauce, some insider information that would make me rich beyond my wildest dreams. Perhaps he had the key to unlocking financial success that I had been searching for. So I took a deep breath, swallowed my pride and my fear, and decided to take the plunge. I signed on the dotted line, hoping that this investment would pay off in ways I couldn't even imagine. After all, sometimes you have to take a leap of faith to reach new heights. I walked into his office expecting some kind of financial wizardry. You know, the kind of stuff you see in movies where the financial advisor has all the answers and can predict the market with pinpoint accuracy. I'm talking crystal balls, stock charts plastered all over the walls, and maybe even some secret algorithms that only he had access to. Maybe even a direct line to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange where he could make trades in real time and get insider tips. I was ready for him to tell me to invest in some obscure company in Silicon Valley that was about to become the next Google. I imagined him having insider knowledge about the next big thing, something that would make me rich overnight. But instead he sat me down, offered me a cup of coffee that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, and started talking about things like risk tolerance and long-term investment strategies. He pulled out charts and graphs that looked like they were written in hieroglyphics and spoke in a language that only Wall Street insiders could understand. Terms like diversification, asset allocation, and market volatility were thrown around like confetti. He showed me complex financial charts and graphs, explaining how different investments performed over time and how important it was to have a balanced portfolio. I tried to keep up, but honestly, it felt like he was speaking in a foreign language. I nodded along, pretending to understand, but inside I was completely lost. I gotta be honest, I was a little underwhelmed. I had expected some groundbreaking advice, something that would change my financial future overnight. I mean, I could have gotten this kind of advice from a book or even a YouTube video without having to sell my kidney to pay for it. There are countless resources out there that offer similar advice for free. So while I appreciated the coffee and the effort, I couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. Maybe I was naive to think there was a magic wand that could solve all my financial problems, but I guess the reality is there's no substitute for doing your own research and making informed decisions. So after all that fancy talk and exorbitant fees, what kind of groundbreaking advice did this financial guru give me? Hold on to your hats, folks, because you're not going to believe this. He told me to invest in index funds. Yes, you heard that right. Index funds. The same boring, vanilla, everyone and their mother owns them index funds that you can buy through any discount brokerage account. I swear, I almost fell out of my chair. I mean, I could have gotten that kind of advice from my grandma, and she still thinks the internet is a fad. Section 5. My cousin Vinny knows more than this, I swear. To add insult to injury, I decided to compare the fancy pants advisor's advice to what I could get for free, or at least a whole lot cheaper. I'm talking about those robo-advisors, you know, the ones that use algorithms and fancy math to manage your money. And guess what? Their advice wasn't that different. They also recommended a diversified portfolio of low-cost index funds, tailored to my risk tolerance and investment goals. I mean, come on. I could have saved myself a fortune and gotten the same advice from a computer program. I'm starting to think this whole financial advisor thing is a big scam, like those guys selling fake Rolexes out of a suitcase on Canal Street. Section 6, let's talk numbers. Did I strike gold or what? Okay, so the advice wasn't exactly earth-shattering, but the real question is, did it work? Did this expensive financial advisor actually help me make more money? Well, after a year of following his advice, my portfolio had grown by a respectable amount. Not bad, but not exactly the life-changing returns I was hoping for. And when I compared my returns to those of my robo-advisor portfolio, they were practically identical. It turns out the market had a good year overall, so pretty much everyone made money, regardless of who was managing their money. Section 7. So, was this worth more than a slice at Lombardi's? Let's cut to the chase, folks. Was hiring this high-priced financial advisor worth it? In a word, no. Sure, he was a nice guy and he had a fancy office, but his advice wasn't any better than what I could have gotten for free or a fraction of the cost. And my returns? They were practically the same as if I had just invested in a basic index fund portfolio myself. Look, I'm no financial genius, but I know a rip-off when I see one. And this, my friends, was a rip-off of epic proportions. I learned a valuable lesson from this whole experience. Sometimes the simplest answer is the best one. When it comes to investing, you don't need a fancy advisor with a Wall Street address and a fee structure that would make your head spin. You just need a solid plan, a diversified portfolio of low-cost index funds, and the patience to ride out the market's ups and downs. Heck, you're probably better off asking your local bodega guy for financial advice. At least he'll give it to you straight, and he'll throw in a free cup of coffee with your egg and cheese on a roll. Now I know what you're thinking, but Jim, what about all those complicated financial products and strategies? Don't I need an expert to navigate all that? Listen, unless you're dealing with millions of dollars and have a team of lawyers and accountants at your disposal, you probably don't need any of that fancy stuff. In fact, most of it is designed to do one thing: make money for the people selling it, not for you. Stick to the basics, folks. It's like my grandma always used to say, buy low, sell high, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Simple advice, but it stood the test of time. The financial industry is built on making you think you need their help. They want you to believe that investing is complicated and risky, and that you need their expertise to succeed. But the truth is, investing can be simple and straightforward. You don't need a fancy advisor, a Harvard MBA, or a crystal ball. You just need a little common sense, a long-term perspective, and the discipline to stick to your plan. So the next time you see one of those commercials for a high-priced financial advisor, do yourself a favor, change the channel. You'll thank me later. Look, I'm not saying all financial advisors are bad. There are some good ones out there, but they're few and far between. And even then, you have to ask yourself, do I really need this? You're smarter than you think you are. You don't need someone else to manage your money for you. You can do it yourself, and you can do it well. So take control of your financial future. Educate yourself, make a plan, and start investing. You'll be amazed at what you can achieve. And hey, if you ever find yourself in a bind, just remember, there's always a friendly bodega guy willing to lend an ear, and maybe a few bucks.